You return to the world, but you're not the same. The noise no longer distracts you, the pace no longer rushes you. You've tasted a deeper rhythm, and now you carry it with you. You move through life slower, but stronger. There's a quiet mission on your shoulders, not to preach, not to prove, just to be, to live in a way that reflects what you've seen. You don't force light into anyone's life. You simply become light by being present. The results of your growth often go unseen, and that's okay, because you stopped measuring your worth by visibility. What matters now is integrity. What matters is knowing that your roots run deep, even when no one's watching. Your life begins to echo in others. A sentence you spoke without thinking lifts someone. A moment of kindness shifts someone's day. You'll never know the full impact, but you don't need to. That's the power of becoming. It leaves a mark beyond your reach. You stop clinging to what you used to chase: approval, control, perfection. Those things lose their grip on you. In their place, you hold peace, not because everything is certain, but because you are. You feel closer to something divine, not as a theory, but as a presence. You stop searching for signs and start recognizing whispers you see meaning in. Small moments, you hear truth in silence. You feel held, even in the unknown. You realize the final lesson. This journey was never about achieving. It was about aligning. Every step, every fall, every rise, it all pointed you back to love. Not a feeling, a posture, a way of seeing, a way of living. And so, you begin to call others forward, not by shouting, but by walking. Your life becomes an invitation. Your scars become permission. Your story becomes a map for someone else who thought they were lost. Because the truth is, the climb never ends. Not because you're stuck, but because life is always offering another layer, another depth, another chance to grow. And with each new mountain, you say yes, not out of pressure, but out of purpose. In the end, you don't become the mountain. You realize you always were. You just had to rise into it. That was the journey all along. Not to become something else, but to remember who you truly are. And now, you live from that place, with clarity, with peace, with intention. There comes a time in every life when silence grows louder than words. It's not about what's missing, but about what's unsettled within. A subtle ache, impossible to name, yet impossible to ignore. Like a whisper in the soul reminding you that existing isn't enough. That comfort can become a trap dressed as peace. Somewhere deep inside, a pull begins, gentle at first, then more persistent. You can't explain it. You just know you're meant for something greater. Something rooted in purpose, not routine. It doesn't scream. It hums, low and steady, like the first winds that signal a coming storm. That's when the real question rises. What are you doing with your life? But purpose doesn't arrive wrapped in clarity. It comes covered in doubt. The kind that makes you second-guess everything you thought you knew. You wonder if you have what it takes. If you waited too long, if it's too late, and sometimes that doubt feels heavier than any failure ever could. We create stories to protect ourselves. Stories that say we're too busy, too old, too tired, or too far gone. These stories become walls, and over time, we start believing them, not because they're true, but because they feel safe. Familiar. But every wall that keeps pain out also keeps growth from entering. Then, one day, something breaks, a moment you didn't plan, a phone call, a diagnosis, a goodbye, and just like that, the world shifts. What was once steady now trembles. And though it hurts, it also opens a crack. Through that crack, light begins to pour. You find yourself in a place of confusion, a valley between who you were and who you might become. Everything feels out of place, yet strangely aligned, like the mess itself is trying to speak. But you must be still enough to listen, and brave enough to stay. In that stillness, something begins to reflect back at you. You see yourself not the version you've shown the world, but the one you've ignored. The scared one, the strong one, the one waiting for permission to rise. You stare into your own soul and realize no one's coming to rescue you. This mountain, it's yours to climb. Even in uncertainty, something plants itself inside you. A new desire, a vision, a spark. It doesn't shout, but it refuses to leave. It lingers through quiet mornings and restless nights. A seed of becoming, waiting to take root. Then come the obstacles. Always. Life doesn't roll out a red carpet when you decide to change. People question you. Fear tempts you. Old habits cling tighter than ever. And yet, you step forward, not because it's easy, but because staying the same has become unbearable. And so it begins, the slow, deliberate ascent. One foot, then another. Not toward success, but toward meaning. You don't need to see the peak. You just need to trust the climb. Have you seen yourself in this story so far? Tell me what part of this journey has already echoed in your own life. There is a moment when progress deceives you. You feel strong. You've made a few changes. People start to notice, and for a moment, you think you've arrived. But the mountain has a way of humbling the proud. It reveals how far you still have to go. You stumble, not because you're weak, but because growth always includes a fall. Something inside you begins to crack. Shame tries to rush in, telling you were foolish to believe you could change. But sometimes, it's the breaking that opens the door for truth. Then comes the silence, not just round you, but within. You pray, but the answers don't come. You try, but nothing moves. It feels like everything's paused, like you've been forgotten. But silence isn't always absence. Sometimes it's preparation. In the stillness, you remember why you started. You recall the moment something inside you said, there's more. You relive that aching certainty that your life was meant to mean something. And even if you can't see the next step, you remember what lit the fire. That's when the resistance grows, not just from others, but from within. People doubt you. Some even walk away. Opportunities close. Doors slam. The wind pushes hard against your face. And yet, something else rises in you. A quiet, steady defiance. Help shows up when you least expect it. A voice, a friend, others. It doesn't fix everything, but it reminds you that you're not alone. And sometimes, that's all you need to keep going. One reminder that your pain has not gone unseen. Then, pride knocks at your door. It whispers that you're doing well, that you're ahead of others. It flatters your ego, tempts you to make this journey about recognition instead of purpose, and in chasing applause, you lose direction. But the mountain always leads you back, usually through humility. A moment that cuts your ego down to size, a loss, a quiet correction. You realize, again, that true growth isn't loud. It doesn't need a stage. It just needs honesty. Pain returns, this time not as an enemy, but as a teacher. You begin to understand that the wounds you feared are shaping you, that the nights you cried were not wasted, that grief, properly faced, becomes a tool in your hand, not a chain on your heart. Then, just when you consider turning back, the clouds part. For a moment, you see what could be, a glimpse of purpose, a vision of what your life might become. Not fame, not ease, but meaning. That glimpse is enough to keep you climbing. Thank you for staying with me this far. Your presence here means more than you know, and I promise, the best part of this journey is still ahead. Faith is never louder than when everything else is silent. There comes a moment when you choose to believe not because you see the outcome, but because you trust the process. You stop demanding proof and start walking by conviction. That's when the climb begins to change you from the inside out. Just when you think the path has settled, life twists again. A new beginning rises from the ashes of what ended. A door you didn't expect opens quietly. It doesn't announce itself. It simply appears and asks you to start again, wiser this time. Discipline becomes your companion, not the rigid kind, but the steady one. The daily choice to show up, to push a little farther, to stay true when no one is watching. You begin to realize that greatness isn't built in bursts. It's forged in small, silent choices, and then doubt whispers again. Only this time, it's different. It doesn't scream like before. It creeps in like a fog. The temptation to quit doesn't come through loud thoughts. It comes through tiredness, through apathy. That's when you must remember who you are. You fall to your knees, not out of defeat, but surrender. You speak words not meant for anyone else to hear. You ask for strength, for a peace, for a reason to keep moving. And in that moment of raw honesty, something shifts, not round you, within. Old promises echo, the ones you made to yourself, the ones whispered during sleepless nights and desperate mornings. You remember them not as burdens, but as anchors. You repeat them out loud until they feel real again. The past tries to resurface. Regrets appear like shadows stretching across your path. You could let them weigh you down, but instead, you face them. You name them, you learn from them, and then, gently, you release them. Forgiveness arrives, not as an event, but as a decision, one you make over and over. You release those who wronged you, not because they deserve peace, but because you do. You stop letting the pain of others define your direction. Constancy becomes your power. You move slower now, but with purpose. You stop chasing momentum and start building depth. You understand that strength isn't how fast you climb, but how firmly you stand. Then, a quiet danger emerges. Comparison. You look sideways and wonder why others seem ahead. But your mountain isn't theirs, and their journey can't measure your progress. You turn your gaze back to your path and keep moving, steady and true. There comes a day when you stop measuring success by distance and begin to measure it by depth. You pause to notice how far you've come, not in miles, but in wisdom. You realize that every struggle carved something into you that no one can take away, and in that quiet, something aches, not from pain, but from awareness. You see people pass by, unaware of their own mountain, and it hurts. Because you were once like them. And now, you can't unsee what you've learned. Growth opens your eyes, but it also opens your heart. There's a cost to walking this path. It's the cost of isolation. Not everyone understands your climb. Some even mock it. You try explaining, but words fail. So you walk alone for a while, not out of pride, but out of necessity. Some mountains are meant to be climbed in silence, and then gratitude finds you, not because everything is perfect, but because you begin to see the purpose behind the pain. You give thanks not only for the victories, but for the trials. You whisper prayers of appreciation, not for what you've gained, but for who you're becoming. Along the way, you release what no longer serves you, not in anger, but in peace. You let go of relationships, roles, even dreams that once defined you. You understand now that not everything that started with you was meant to finish with you. Your faith deepens, not the loud kind, but the anchored kind. You feel the presence of something greater, not in grand miracles, but in small confirmations, a quiet voice in the chaos, a calm in the storm. You stop chasing signs and begin trusting presence. And then the clouds lift, not completely, but just enough to give you a glimpse. You see the summit, distant but real. For the first time, it feels possible, not because the path got easier, but because you got stronger. That's when the test comes, one that doesn't look like a test. It might be comfort, or success, or recognition, but it asks the same question. Will you still climb when you're no longer desperate? Will you keep going when no one's watching? You stand before the last great rise, the final stretch. It's steeper, the air is thinner. Every step costs more now, but every step means more, too. You know what's behind you. You know what's ahead. And you know why you started. And then, stillness. Not the stillness of confusion, but of clarity. You breathe deeply, not because you've arrived, but because you understand now. This climb was never just about reaching the top. It was about becoming someone who could. You take one more step, and then another. There is no fanfare, no applause, just breath and effort. But something inside you knows, this is it. The summit is not a place, it's a realization. You have become the kind of person who finishes what they begin. You look back, not to return, but to honor the path, the pain, the doubts, the stumbles. All of it mattered, all of it shaped you. You see every valley you crossed, every storm you survived, and you feel something rare. Peace from this height. Life looks different. The things that once consumed you now seem small, not unimportant, just smaller. Your perspective shifts, the view expands, and with it, your understanding of what truly matters. You don't feel triumphant, you feel calm, like the winds have settled inside your chest, like your soul has found its rhythm. This is what it means to become a mountain. Not loud, not proud, just steady, grounded, immovable in purpose. Then comes the descent, but it's not a fall, it's a return. You go back, not as the person who left, but as the one who has been changed. And this return matters just as much as the climb, because now you carry the mountain within you. You don't speak of the journey, often, not because you've forgotten, but because some things can't be explained, only lived instead. You let your life speak. Your presence becomes your story. Your choices become your testimony. You notice the quiet impact, a conversation that helps someone believe again, a gesture that carries more than words. You didn't set out to influence anyone, but your growth creates ripples, even in silence. Fruit begins to appear, not always visible, not always immediate, but unmistakable. The decisions you made in private begin to bloom in places you never expected, and though you never climbed for a reward, you begin to taste the harvest of your perseverance. You start to understand legacy, not as something grand, but as something consistent. The way you show up, the way you forgive, the way you keep your promises. These things outlast you. These things remain. And finally, gratitude, not for the summit, but for the whole journey. You thank the valleys for their lessons, the storms for their strength, the silence for its truth. You thank the climb, because it revealed the mountain you were always meant to become.